cliffs. She watched in awe as the surfers rode the waves, and she couldn't help but admire the big brawny lifeguards with their wetsuits and tousled hair, and dreamed of being young again, and wished it were now. How did they manage to race across the shingle barefoot? Not that she wasn't madly in love with Simon, of course, but some of these hunks, wow. Then it had rained non-stop for 3 days, and their ideas of further exploring the area in Simon's open-topped Triumph Stag had dissolved into the grey gloom. They squelched along the beach in waterproofs and Wellingtons, and got to know the Portmeirion Arms very well indeed. The Portmeirion Arms was reported to be an old smuggler's inn, complete with black beams and nicotine-stained walls, and a huge inglenook in which an open fire was burning even though it was July. Horse brasses and copper warming pans were hung around the fireplace, and there were some interesting corners, one of which accommodated the domino players. There were, Tess was delighted to see, no fruit machines. But on the 4th day the rain stopped, and there were even a few tiny breaks in the cloud here and there, where the sun struggled to get through. So off they set in the Yellow Stag, which was Simon's pride and joy. And with the roof down, as they wound along the country lanes, which in itself normally tempted fate, the sun finally emerged, the sea sparkled again, and their spirits soared. They'd only driven the short distance along the coast road towards the pub when, for the first time, Simon noticed a narrow turning up the hill opposite. "Seagull Hill!" he exclaimed, stamping on the brakes and making a violent turn up the steep, potholed lane. That was the thing with Simon. He could never resist lanes, streets, avenues or roads with birds' names. When Tess first met him, he was living in the townhouse in West London, which was now their home, bought purely because it was situated on Goldcrest Road, and never mind that it didn't have a garage, or even a parking space. It was close to the tube station, though, and had a large back garden which wasn't overlooked, both big plus points in London. Now, as they bounced their way up over the potholes, Tess muttered, "Not much up here." And it was then, at that exact moment, that they saw the for sale sign at the entrance to a rhododendron-lined drive, although no house was visible through the trees.
"Shall we have a quick peek?"
he said. And that was how they found Over and Above. It stood there in splendid isolation, a large Edwardian heap in an overgrown garden, blinds down, empty and forlorn. It had a steeply pitched roof, some impressive chimneys sighted halfway down the slope, a multi-paned front door, and sash windows through which they could see little. When Tess peeled a loose layer of paint off one of the front windows with her fingernail, a chunk of wood fell off as well. "Just for a start, the windows are rotten," she remarked. Simon, as if in a trance, seemed not to hear her.
"Let's walk round and see what it's like at the back."
They navigated their way with difficulty, past overhanging rampant blackberries and knee-high nettles, until they came to the rear, with its rotting French doors and damp facade. But neither of them noticed any of that, because they were completely seduced by the vision of blue sea and Atlantic surf, which took their breath away, and probably their common sense with it. "Wow," said Tess, as they both stood mesmerised by the view.
"Imagine waking up to that every morning,"
sighed Simon. When they eventually turned round to look at the house again, Tess said, "Just look at that wisteria. This must be its second flooring." Covering most of the damp around and above the French doors was an enormous and very prolific wisteria, cascading tassels of misty mauve still trailing from its gnarled boughs. It was 3 times the size of Simon's at Goldcrest Road.
"Yeah, that's pretty impressive,"
he agreed, before turning back to admire the view of the Atlantic.
"And this has to be one of the best views in..."